Nice to see everyone. Thanks for being here. We're recording this for the Drum Hangs podcast this evening, and got a special guest. And it's interesting when you're kind of getting into your drumming when you're younger, and you're hoping people are going to send you in the right direction. And I was lucky; I had a good start, I think. And I've done a podcast about Phil Solomon before, and I said in the podcast that he was so inspiring for me because he really gave me the drumming bug, and one thing he would be great at was getting you to go and see the right people. You would go and see all kinds of different drummers, I've spoken about before. And he used to produce a leaflet called the Drum Study, which would come out bi-weekly. And he'd always feature fills or something or beats from a particular drummer. And there was one issue in particular where he had some beats by the gentleman who's my guest today, which is Dave Mattacks, obviously. And he had these fills written out, and they were so simple. And one of the fills was even just 4 rests. And it was kind of, is that some kind of joke, Phil? Don't you like his playing? But it was to highlight the need for the space in music and letting the music breathe. And this is one thing that Dave Mattacks does so well. And more importantly, the sound he actually gets out the drums. And this is what we're trying to do when we play the drums, I think, is actually create a good sound that people actually want to hear you and perform with you. Seems so obvious, but sometimes so lost, I think. And I remember the first time I saw Dave play, it was with a blues band in Worthing, and Phil said, right, Dave's playing, we're going to take a carload of students and we're going to see him. And I was just amazed. And I followed his career ever since then, and I saw him play countless times in around Sussex area where he's from, and I saw him play all kinds of different music, and I particularly loved watching him play jazz. Remember there was one evening where it was a real rainy night. I've told Dave this before. We turned up to this gig. There was hardly anyone there, typical jazz gig, really, and it was with John Donaldson and Tim Wells, and John Donaldson's incredible pianist, and Tim Wells a great double bass player as well. And they counted off one tune, and the tempo was so quick. And as they counted off, they looked around at Dave, and Dave's eyebrows just kind of went up. And it was so quick. And when they counted off, Dave just created this beautiful space. And it was just something I'll never forget. And it was a real lesson into, not be intimidated by kind of fast tempos and how to handle that. And actually, you don't need to try and muscle it out. You could just leave a lot of space and be creative and make some real statements on the drums, which I think he always does. And we've got a special announcement tonight as well. So I'm going to invite Dave in. Here we go. Here he is. Here's the man.
Here's moi.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm on my second cup of coffee for the day, so things are good.
So it's about 2:00 in Marblehead.
Yeah. One at the beginning of the day and another one at lunchtime. And I try and limit it to that, Russ. So I've gone on the days of drinking it through the day. Even on sessions these days, I try not to do that because the jangle juice,
Well, I want to thank you because not only for the inspiration, like I'm talking about, from you were the first kind of proper drummer that I saw play, And,
oh God, God help you.
It was huge for me. It really was, and I've always loved your playing and
thank
approach.
I'm flattered.
Yeah. And of course, when we started the Drum Hangs, you were one of the first guest, and we had to have you on, and thanks for doing it, because it was a great afternoon.
Well, it was so enjoyable. I was just knocked out what you and Neil were doing. I mean, and I was absolutely delighted as I saw the whole thing grow. And then when you started to get some really proper drummers involved, I thought that was great. And I remember, telling Jim and Jim Keltner, and because I said, trust me, they're great guys. You'll have a great time. And it was great that I could help a little bit. But I was knocked out with what you did. And what a great thing to do, just in terms of, I know it's a bit corny and everything, but the drumming community that you did that. You must, I mean, the pair of you must have made even more friends. And
yeah, I never felt so connected in a time where the pandemic sort of separated so many people, and I was hearing from drummers all over the world, you know, and it was crazy, and it got to a point for me personally where I was like, how the hell do I do this? I didn't know, you know, what to do each day, because I'd have a load of emails and I had to get back to people, and I would have to organize events as well, and it got really, really busy, you know, and you know, although it's harder now the pandemic's lifted to sort of keep these things going, because we want to pay the artists, but most importantly, you know, that is what we wanted to do with it.
Well, and get something out of it for yourselves as well, for all the work.
Yeah, so it was a great thing to do, and you helped us get so many guests on. You know, I know Jim Keltner especially. I remember when I got the email from you, and he said, "Phone Jim Keltner," and I immediately, as soon as I saw that email come in, I just rang him straight away. And I remember he has this thing of your shoulders just drop the minute you speak to him, and he's just so relaxing on the phone, isn't he?
I mean, it comes back to that cliche. You play how you are.
Yeah.
The people's personalities come through in their playing. I mean, I know that, again, you know, stating the incredibly bloody obvious, but you sense that with Jim. Sense, you know, you sense a lot of love, kind of laid back, curious, intuitive, instinctual, blah blah. It just comes across in how he is as a person. He's just
it really does. Yeah, and I was it was, for me, I was just really nervous the minute I started picking up the phone. I thought, oh my god, I'm going to speak to and you said phone him. I thought, well, there's no time like the present, and that's how it was at that time, because I was speaking to so many of these different guys. I'd never felt so kind of in the moment ever, really. You know, I was really sort of right in the moment. You know,
I can imagine a couple of months after that, you're probably going, hello, Jim. No, hang on, darling. Tell Steve Gadd I'm busy at the moment.
But yeah, I've got some really cool stories which I'm going to share. This was one of the reasons for getting the podcast going, was to share these stories about how we set up the events and things like that. So I'll be doing that shortly. I wanted to do it in an order where I was talking about different teachers and things like that first, and then we start talking to the guests that have been on. So you were one of the first guests, so it's important to have you on, and it's great timing because I haven't spilt the beans yet.
Okay.
On what we're planning, and we're planning an in-person event in August, aren't we, Daves?
We are. I was just over in the UK in April. I did a little tour, and I'm coming back in August as a guest of a music festival, and then we're going to get together for a whole day, basically, well, a third of a day, in a recording studio very close to you. And funny enough, I just looked up where it is.
Yes.
It's about 10 minutes, 15 minutes from where I used to live.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So we've titled the event "Hanging at the Hive" because, you know, the Hive Studios is the venue, and it's a fantastic facility. They have a lot of bands who are about to go on tour. They're rehearsing there, so you get some big names who are rehearsing in the studios there, and they also have a really nice thing which they built throughout the pandemic. They've been working on building this sort of massive live room, and it's a really great facility, and all the guys there are drummers as well, so it's a friendly place for us to be, you know.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so we're going to be there on Tuesday the 16th of August, and it's a completely exclusive event, and you're going to be supplying a couple of tracks that guys can play along to. Shall I give people the outline of it? Go for it. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, I mean, when I do clinics that cover this kind of thing, I mean, we get it, you know, for want of a better cliche, we do get into the weeds, of course, but actually being in the studio, we're really going to get into it. I'm going to supply a couple of tracks, stems, I hasten to add to tracks. For example, each track's going to have the main vocal. It'll have some of the instruments, guitar, bass, and then a click. and then the drums will be on one stem, but we're going to mute that. And what I'm keen to do is I'll set the kit up, but then one of the things to do will be to go through with the players and have them play along to this track. This is a track these will be a couple of tracks I hasten to add that I've already played on.
Yeah.
But what will be interesting will be to not only address everyone's approach from all kinds of angles. I mean, obviously, we all know about playing in time, and these days, as you and I have said, relatively speaking, everybody plays in time. But then when you get into the nuance, it's blah blah blah. So that will be the thing. And then the other thing, as well as playing in time, is how people approach a couple of songs.
Yeah.
What they go, and I'll be able to say, okay, hypothetically, that's a really good idea, what you've come up with there. I wouldn't have thought to do that. But why are you hitting that cymbal at that point? Or, again, getting into the weeds. Okay, but why are you hitting it so hard there?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And then, of course, we can get into things like mic placement, mic choices, the balance of the set. One of the things that I talk about when this subject comes up is trying to picture, if you will, the imaginary $8 million microphone just behind your head.
Yeah.
And if the example that I always give, Russ, is that, for example, if you're using pinstripes with a low tuning with 1/2 mile of duct tape on them and the new 26-inch Mega Bell ride cymbal, all that overhead's going to hear is the cymbal. It ain't going to hear any drums.
Yeah, now, right.
Then we can get into talking about multi-miking. And in a case like that, maybe that would be right. Maybe the toms needed to be dead in that situation. Yeah, this is where we get into, or we can discuss this, but what I've realized these days is that pretty much the rule book has gone out of the window.
Yeah.
In other words, there isn't really a right and a wrong way, but what there is arming players with as much knowledge as possible.
Yeah.
Why your drum sounds that way, what happens if you move a mic from here to here, what happens when you employ room mics and you don't delay them or you bring them back in time. It's I wouldn't say it's endless, but there's a lot to discuss. So that's what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, like there's been so much talk over the last 2 years, and we've both sat on these Zoom things forever, and there's so much talk about it. It's time for people to get a bit more hands-on and actually get some guidance when they're playing. And we talked about this thing before of that's easy drumming, and and I can post things. I mean, the Drumhangs Instagram just hit 15,000 followers today, which is astounding. I can't believe it. It's
how many?
15,000 followers on Instagram today, which is so cool, and from I remember the first post, and you were one of the first posts, but so I post these things occasionally as the thing's grown, we're getting more people we don't know obviously on there, and you get a comment like, oh, Jeff Porcaro, he must have been he must have had a bad day that day, you post a video clip up and you're thinking to yourself, well, no, he was doing exactly the job on the day. That's what he did on the day, and that's what the music needed. Like, how is that easy? What he's doing. How is that easy? Oh, sorry, you're muted. I've lost you, Dave.
Is that better? No.
Oh, hang on.
Hang on. You've lost. Okay. Is that? Are we okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I can hear you now. Yeah.
Oh, you can? Okay. And oh, right, there I am back again. Okay.
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah. I'm going to use a quote of Steve's now. I mean, he said there's one of the advantages of doing a lot of studio work is hearing yourself back, not from an ego point of view, but learning what works, and the thing that you think works sometimes doesn't,
Mm.
and vice versa. Then no, I don't think that's a good idea, but I'll try it. Oh, hang on, that fits perfectly.
Yeah.
And the other thing, obviously, that will come into discussion is I'm hoping it'll be helpful for players who are in the early stages, middle stages, whatever, of doing their own studio at home.
Yeah. This is a big thing now, isn't it? A home studio for
Apparently,
drummers.
with the young people, it is.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we did one of the hangs we did was with Aaron Sterling, who famously has his home set up, and he has this whole. He does a lot of things for songwriters, as you do, but he has it at home, and with that hang, people were just so interested in what he was doing in his home studio, the setups and the mic choice, all those things. They were really into it. So there's a real huge, huge amount of drummers have sort of diversified into this sort of almost like self-producing role, and I know you've been doing a lot of recording throughout the pandemic locally, haven't you, as well? So
I made a decision quite some time ago, long before the pandemic, not to go down the home studio route, but in my case, there's some really, really great studios here in New England. There's some great ones in Boston, New England, but I also have some friends who have, shall we say, more modest studios. So if I get asked, which is quite a bit these days, to play on someone's tracks, I dial in going to my friend's house, and we get great results. But I didn't do it myself. But again, I mean, it's that thing of okay, I've only got 2 channels. Okay, I've only got 4. I've only got 8. I say only 8. You should be able to get you should be able to get a good sound with 2. But then we get into the whole thing about acoustics, room size, the way the drums are tuned, what's appropriate for the music. The list, again, I wouldn't say it's endless, but there's a lot of information there. And I guess a lot of the younger drummers who are starting their own studios are finding that out.
Yeah.
They're finding that out, that, I can get a good drum sound with 2 microphones, depending on how I tune and what the music requires. And
a lot can go wrong in the studio. If you're inexperienced in playing in the studio, like many of us are, and you actually like you say, you hear back and you think, do I sound like that? You know what I mean? So it's a real wake-up call for you sometimes, when you can be in there and you're thinking, well, I could do that, and I think it'll be a great lesson for a lot of people coming along if they, getting that guidance from you and that sort of helping hand from, I mean, it's decades of experience we're talking about with some of the greatest musicians and engineers ever you've worked with, So
I've been very fortunate. Yeah, very fortunate. And with producers as well as great engineers. I don't think there's any, I'm going to add in, again, something rather obvious. I don't think there's any real substitute for a bunch of people being in a room together.
Yeah.
That being a fully paid up old school, that's still my preference. But like a lot of us, I've learned how to adapt. And make do. Sometimes it's great when you come in last. It's more of a challenge if you're going in first or second. There's that element to it as well. So there, as you say, there's a lot. There's
a lot happening.
A lot happening. Yeah.
And I remember I always kind of tell this story about going to a session with Neil at Abbey Road, and he borrowed my drums because he just got back off tour, and I remember going to the thing, and the producer came out. We unloaded the drums. The producer wanted to have a quick look at the drums. Oh, what are you using? Kind of thing. And then we set them up, and he said, "Yeah, okay, go for it." And then before you knew it, the red light was on, and they were recording, and it was just 16 bars of music. But I sat right behind the drums, and I just felt that immense pressure of like, well, he's got to do it now. This is it. He's got to do it, and it's 16 bars, but it's heavy. In that moment, in that the surroundings like that, that you can't learn that in the practice room. You've got to do it.
Well, and you're not, and again, you're not going to get that in your own studio.
No.
You're not going to get that. So it's the more outside experience, even if you are doing your own studio, the more outside that you can, the more outside of your own environment.
Yeah.
I think that, to me, you probably hear yours truly and a lot of my peers, my peer group, say the same thing, that the it's one thing to be, and I'm not necessarily being derogatory here, but it's one thing to be fantastic in your own room.
Yeah.
But if you get plonked on the bandstand and someone says, you might be working on whatever at home and have all your chops down, and if somebody plonks you in on a bandstand and goes mid-tempo blues shuffle, flat tire coming in on the 4,
Yeah.
you're gonna find out the hard way, maybe initially hard, but it's all this stuff will go in.
Yeah.
And then the next time you might be in your own home studio, and the person who sent you the track says, "It's a blues thing, it's a flat tone." You go, "Oh yeah, okay, I know what that is."
Yeah.
Rather than, "I've just been sitting here working on my inverted paradiddles for the last 3 months."
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
The real life experiences, I don't think there's any substitute for that. I think there's certainly it seems to me that the best of the players that are doing the younger players, I really, now I do sound like an old fella. the best of the younger players that have got their own studio, they're all out there doing it.
Yeah.
At some degree, they're all interacting and playing live music. So that,
Yes.
I always stress that to me is the most important thing. Have your own studio, work on your thing, work on your sound, work on your touch, but try and get out there as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just talking earlier about Phil Solomon, and
right.
and he used to always say the story, when he talk about you, he said, he sort of said, people would sort of say, "Oh yeah, you're great, Phil," but there's this guy in Crawley, Dave Mattacks, and he plays everything. And he remembered the time he first saw you play, and he said you could just play all the different styles just perfectly, and I think that's always the mark of a drummer. Yeah, he said that all the time. Yeah, he said that all the time.
I suppose that's what I suppose that must have been in 1900 and frozen to death when I was the new kid on the block.
But yeah, he said that, he always used to say that about you, so yeah. It was,
he was too kind. What a sweetheart, man. I miss him.
Yeah, he was a great character,
I didn't realize until you were saying earlier, and I was obviously listening in, I didn't realize you had that. I knew that you knew him and you went. I didn't realize your connection was as strong as it was.
Yeah. I studied with him for quite a few years. I was very close with him, and we used to sort of always take us to loads of different gigs. It was just incredible, and he was just. I don't think without him I would have really had the drumming bug. And there's so many different things that have kind of come up over the years where I think to myself, if I'd listened to Phil, he probably was right about that. Little silly little things, but when you're young, you kind of maybe don't listen. But
well, you listen, but sometimes you don't hear.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. So he's always kind of quite profound sometimes. His kind of influence, and I suppose he was always setting up events and things like that, which I've ended up kind of doing a bit of that myself.
Yeah, you have. But, well, again, you're I think all of us, we that are really interested, we've all got that element of being sponge-like. This is outside of my immediate remit, but I think I'm going to get something from it. I mean, I even when I hear kind of music that I'm maybe not crazy about or something, I normally get something out of it. Same thing as when I go into a studio or do a live date, even if it's not completely my cup of tea. I always get something out of it, especially in a studio. This is a room, hypothetical situation. Here's a room that I'm kind of familiar with the acoustics. I think I know what this is going to sound like. Oh, this drum cymbal, whatever, doesn't sound anything like I thought it would.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
is that? What's changed? What's
Yeah.
going? And then you stick the mic on it and you hear it and you go, that's not working, that is working. And the more knowledge one has, you can then do something about it.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
opposed to that thing that you and I have talked about, and I know Neil and many others feel the same way. Rather than pointing to the engineer and going, my drums don't sound any good, fix it. You've got Pro Tools, you can do anything with it. No,
Yeah.
fix it here.
Yeah.
And
Right.
make them sound better. And the interesting thing here about people having their own studios is that they realize they can't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
If you've got your own studio, you can't point to the engineer and go, my drums don't sound any good. Because
you got to sort it out. Yeah.
So that's one of the many pluses. Our players are becoming their knowledge of, or their knowledge and understanding of tuning and mic placement is immediately starting to improve.
Yeah.
Maybe more than in other situations. But what you have to dial in is that's just the room that they're in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Now let's take your drums out and put them in a different room and see how you get on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and you really are the master of this subject. You really are.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not a master. I've just acquired a lot of information.
You have.
I've acquired a lot of information, but I look some of my peers that I look up to. I'm the Gads and the Peter Erskines and
the Keltners,
the Keltners and the Steve Jordans and everything. Here's a cool thing. Let's just go down this path. If this hopefully won't be boring for people. I've always, for a long time, I had to think about tom sizes, about gaps between toms.
Yeah.
When I used to, I've given up using a 10.
Yeah.
I tend to use a 12, a 14, and a 16, 2 floors and 1 rack, and I've never quite understood the 12, 13, 14 thing.
Yeah.
I don't get it. To me, it's too close, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Classic case of whatever I think or anyone else thinks is truly subjective. I just found out that Steve on the Stones gig is using a 13 and a 14.
Wow, really? I didn't know that.
He's using a 13 rack and a 14 floor. And I spoke to Don McCauley about it, he was Charlie's and now he's Steve's tech. And I'm fairly sure that because of the way Steve tunes, which is way, way up.
Yes.
He's making those two toms sound sufficiently disparate.
Yeah.
But he's getting a better head response out of that 14 in terms of how it comes back at him than a 16 tuned further up. And because he's tuned so high and the snare's way, way up, he's able to get the 13 and that 14 sufficiently far apart pitch-wise so you can hear the difference between them.
Yeah.
But because he's got them cranked and because it's Steve Jordan and the way he plays, it works. But if somebody had said that to, 13, I would have got, 13 and a 16 or a 12 and a 16. But a 13 and a 14, only 2 times. Oh, no, can't. Oh, no. Yeah. And then lo and behold.
Did you go through a period of using 12, 13, 14?
Never.
You never did?
Never.
Okay, yeah.
I never did it. No, I never did that. Even when that was back in the day, when it was 12, 13, 16, I couldn't make it work.
Yeah.
I couldn't make it work. When I started with, I think I started, the first kit was probably either 13 and a 16 or a 12 and a 14.
Yeah.
And when I decided to add toms, there was a brief period, maybe it's not brief, I can't remember, it's a long time ago, when extra toms came in, I did go to a 10 and I went 10, 12, 14, 16.
Right, okay.
But I could never make the 12, 13, 14 thing work, or 12, 13, 16, because the 12 and the 13, where I found them at the point where they seemed to naturally resonate the way I liked, they weren't sufficiently far apart. I mean, they were, but I found that when you heard back, it wasn't sufficient difference. If you're using a lot of tom-toms, I mean, like 7 or 8 or 9, then yes, you can do that. But if you're only using 3, I wanted the gaps to be greater so that it was clearer. And for me, the only way I could get that pitch differentiation sufficiently clear would have been to crank the 12, leave the 13 medium, and have the 16 really slack.
Yeah.
And in that environment, for me, it works, but they sound like they belong to different drum kits.
Right. Got you. Yeah.
So I'd either use a 12 and a 14 and a 16, either all low or all medium or all cranked.
Yeah.
Like they just say, I mean, but I'm fond of saying this. There's somebody 2 miles up the road doing a 12, 13, 14 and sounding like $1 million.
Yeah.
So what do I know?
Yeah, it's different for different people, I guess.
It is different. Yeah. It's very subjective. That's
but like we said, you have so much experience to draw upon from just years of working. You've been working constantly now for what? A lot of years.
A lot of years, yeah.
So it's and with some of the greatest artists and playing on some of the biggest records, so it's there's a lot of information there, and it's a great opportunity on Tuesday the 16th to be able to get inside your head, and
well, I mean, we'll go down this path even more, for those who want to get into it, and apart from, and I'm always in these situations, and with something like that, Russ, it'll be great if people come armed with a lot of questions.
Yes. And some people might even want to bring, they might want to bring a snare drum, or they might have a tom they're having trouble with, or something like that. Then, Dave's there on hand to be able to help you with it. You've just frozen, Dave, but I don't know if you can still hear me. You've frozen. Sorry. I think we lost you, Dave. We've lost him there, but he might come back in and come in. But that's the thing with this day. I mean, it's a 5-hour day, and you've got 5 hours with one of the greatest living studio drummers in the world. And I think it's you've got to go and seek these people out and learn from them. And these are the people that have got all the information and the experience. So it's important to really use that, and you can book a ticket on drumhanks.com. You can go to the website, and the tickets are live now. And I'm really excited to get everyone together, and spending time with someone like Dave is magical. And I've always tried to go and see him play. And the worst thing for me is now that he lives in, he's back. Here we go. You're back.
Yeah.
Just saying, the worst thing for me now is not being able to see you regularly. That's all right. Not being able to see you regularly because you're in the USA. I used to see you all the time playing in Sussex.
I remember, when I wasn't on tour or something. I'd love to. Yeah, I remember those. I do remember now with those. I mean, you mentioned a trio gig with the great John Donaldson and him. Yeah, and there was a really good record that we made with Andy Kleinhardt and John Donaldson. Yeah,
and then you did that thing Set Piece as well, which was a really.
I'm very proud of that. Yeah,
and if anyone hasn't heard that, that's really seek that out, because it's a really cool recording, and it was a great time. Yeah, it was just a really cool time.
Mid-90s, Russ?
Yeah, I think it was late 90s. I think
late 90s. Like we did that. Yeah. That's right. I think I remember doing that just before I came over here. We came over here in 2000. So
because I first saw you probably 1998, right? 97, 98, and then all of a sudden I'd seen you, and I keep wanting to come and see you, but then you were going to Marblehead, but it's one of those things, So, all those times I saw you, it definitely went in there somewhere. You know what I mean? So, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, but I'm just excited for the 16th, and we can get people together and have a bit of a hands-on day, and people can do some playing, and they can learn from you directly, So
and I shall be. It'll be good for me. I mean, it's going to be a new studio. You and I will liaise about wing nuts and drums heads and
Yeah.
before
Well,
the actual day. I'm just going to be rolling up with a pair of sticks, and
yeah.
hopefully you can supply the hot rods and the beaters and the rest of it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I said in the description, people don't need to bring their drums, but if they've got trouble with a snare drum, like I said earlier, or a tom or something like that, bring it along. There's no problem.
That's
Dave will have a look at it. So yeah,
I think that's great. I'd recommend that too. If there's a snare drum in your collection, any of the people that are going to be coming to this,
yeah,
bring it along, and I'll do my best to sort it out. I mean, that's what will be really cool, Russ, is that the fact that we've got quite a length of time, and it
yeah.
won't be kind of like we won't have to rush through things. We can everyone will get a chance to play to those tracks. We can talk about what people do. We can talk about sound. We can talk about microphones. We can talk about concepts. The only thing I'm always reluctant to discuss is the color of the socks that I wore when I recorded with Nick Drake. Apart from that, everything's open.
It's
yes.
fair game. Everything's fair game. Yeah, yes. Well, yeah. Thanks for doing this today as well, and I'm pleased to
My
announce
pleasure.
this event with you. Because it's something we've never done. We've done an in-person gig before with Drum Hangs, but this will be the first kind of.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we did a gig at a jazz club in Brighton with Ari Honig,
Oh
and
God, he's
with the
fantastic.
trio. Yeah,
That
it
must
was
have
really
been
great.
incredible, right?
It was fantastic, and
Yeah.
it was a sold out gig. So yeah, I'm looking forward to selling this event out. And there's only 10 spaces for people as well, so it's a real exclusive kind of opportunity. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So
Tell me
yeah.
about the Ari Honig gig. He's got a lot of chops, but he plays with a lot of space, and he's just another guy who sees the big picture. And
Yeah,
that must be great. Who was the piano player and bass player?
Well, it was a guitarist and a bass player. So it was
okay.
Tom Ohlendorf and Connor Chaplin, who are two British great young jazz musicians,
Mhm.
and they're playing a lot of Tom's compositions and a couple of Ari's compositions as well. And Ari's got such a great approach, a melodic approach to drumming, and I organised a masterclass with him in 2019, and
Mhm.
he is just. I've always been really interested in playing melodies on the drums, and
He
how
really does it, doesn't he?
it's amazing, yeah,
Yeah.
and seeing that up close, and he does all that on the gigs as well, and he's really he's got some great exercises about kind of singing melodies from tunes and playing, over the top while you're singing, and all different sort of subdivisions. It's really incredible to watch him do that in a masterclass situation as well as the gig. So.
Did you do? Was that a separate event, or was that?
Yeah, we did. We did the masterclass a couple of years before the pandemic. I think it was maybe 2018, and then the gig we did a rhythm section workshop before the gig, which was really cool because one thing I've always been interested is how other musicians are thinking about the drums as well. So it's important for the drummers there to hear the bass players. Well, I don't like it when people do that, and people got up and played with this trio and stuff. So yeah, I'm into this kind of providing experiences for people to actually play with world-class musicians as well is important, isn't it? Because it's a different feeling.
It's that's another thing that is sometimes gets overlooked.
Yeah.
What's important to the people that you're playing with?
Yes.
What do what? And I got into this thing. Is it with Joe LaBarbera? I can't remember, but somebody of that ilk about how do you determine whether this was an actual question. I can't remember the response, but like, for example, how do you, like, some front guys want a lot of interaction from the drummer. They want that permanent exchange that's almost going on like a Roy Haynes thing. Others just want it straight down the middle and just here and there. And how do you know that when you get on the bandstand for the first time? And we got into that.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you can, and that's not something that is necessarily just applicable to jazz players.
No.
You could change that over to the rock thing and say, well, do you want a kind of a Mitch Mitchell thing going on, or do you want a Phil Rudd thing?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just every situation is different. Not just because it's kind of jazz or this or that. It doesn't necessarily apply that what one is going to do or one's approach is necessarily the right thing. You have to kind of, as Danny Thompson said, use these. They're not painted on.
and you can't also, importantly, you can't impose yourself and your own kind of playing personality on the other musicians, because they've had different experiences with different drummers as well. So they might be used to hearing something where you thought, oh well, I'm playing, I'm doing well here, and they've like, well, that's not how we're used to,
No, that's not how I had a real wake-up call it was about 10 years ago. I was here and I was working. I got called to do this heavyweight kind of funk, semi-funk thing. And I remember thinking, well, my time's okay. I'm just going to. And the piano player basically turned around and go, drummer, I need a busier bass drum.
Right.
And that's like asking me to jump off a cliff, because I tend to play I wouldn't say four square, but I tend to play, given the chance between making a statement and an understatement, I'm always going to make an understatement. But I had to kind of rise, and he wanted a lot of stuff going on in the bass drum, and so that's a good indication right there of what you just said about just. One tries not to impose one's thing upon the people that you're working with, but you just have to listen and be aware. And when they turn around and throw things at you, that normally means they're not very happy.
Yeah. Well, thinking in from a kind of jazz perspective as well, is that if you as a drummer have studied all the different horn players and the different pianists and how they play, you could probably pick up a pianist's influence and then say, well, this guy plays like Red Garland, well, I better try play a bit more like Philly Joe, or and it's important that drummers understand that. I think that you're not just got to check out the drums, you got to check out
the big picture. Dave Hassel, man, he's up there with all those guys, as far as I'm concerned. He knows so much, and he imparts it in such a great way. I've told you this before, but I have to acknowledge it where it's true. And it's not just kind of full self-effacement. I had one of the most humbling experiences of my entire career when I went to see him a long time ago, before we moved over here.
Right.
He sat me down, man, and he wasn't being kind of, he wasn't being unpleasant. He just said, one of the things was, okay, play me some time.
Yeah.
Now make the hi-hat louder. Now make it quieter.
Yeah, sure.
Quieter. Sweating buckets. It's just. and then he'll turn around and go, okay. I was just. Yeah, there's people that can do that, but Dave will kind of, Dave Hassel will take you down that path, but in the most positive and the most musical way, and he'll explain why you should look at this and look at that and listen for this and listen for that. He's a master of big picture teaching, as well as being a great friggin' player.
Yeah, absolutely.
So good.
Yeah, and Dave's teaching. So anyway, I said this before on a couple of other podcasts. People should go and study with Dave in Manchester. Why not? Why wouldn't you?
Go up there. Even if you live down south, go up there and go up and have a couple of hours with.
But I'm guilty of promoting this, but I haven't actually done it myself. But I did go to Canada and study with Jim Blackley, though, so it kind of lets me off the hook a little bit.
That's pretty good.
So, but I will go up there soon. But anyone listening should go and get in touch with him. He's on Facebook and he's on Instagram and all these other kind of social media restaurants. I like to call them, you know. So wherever you dine, you can get in touch with Dave Hassel, I think. So
absolutely.
But yeah, this has been fantastic. And while we've been talking, there's been a couple of tickets selling for the thing. So there's only, I think there's only 7 spaces left now. So you need to get on this quick by the looks of things.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, it will sell out. So yeah, it's going to be fun.
I like Pedro. I'll bring my shaker.
Yeah. Hey, Pedro. Yeah, he's a great guy. I love Pedro.
Great guy and a great percussionist player. Yeah. Very musical. Great time, great sound, great feel, great.
Yeah, and shout out to Ali Van Ryan as well.
Oh, Ali.
Yeah,
my chum Ali. Yeah, the toppest.
Dave Payne's watching. Dan Williams watching. Yeah, so,
there goes the neighborhood. Hello, Mr. Payne.
Yeah. So no, this has been fantastic. So
good.
Yeah, drumhanks.com. And again, thank you for all the inspiration, Dave.
You are welcome. Thank you for being for this and everything else.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I think what I always say, sometimes when you hear people when you're younger, you hear them for the first time, you don't kind of realize the impact that they're probably going to have on you. And do you know what I mean? It's like the first time I went to see Alvin, I thought, okay, well, I'm 17, I see Alvin, but I didn't realize that now I would do anything to go back to that time, and see him play. And you just don't realize the impact sometimes that these people have in your life. And you definitely have that for me too, of seeing those moments when you play.
And I've been in the same place as you. I remember seeing one of the very early incarnations. This is just one of hundreds of examples of the first incarnation, for example, of Chick's Return to Forever.
Oh, cool.
With Airto playing drum.
He's insane.
And I'll be honest, the first 5 minutes I'm not getting it, and then by the end of it I've flipped.
Yeah.
I've got it, and because it wasn't used to what I was. It wasn't what I was used to hearing.
Yeah.
Stanley, a very young Stanley, was on upright. Chick was on Fender Rhodes. Joe Farrell and Flora.
Yeah, amazing.
So same as yourself. You see these things and go, yeah, it's okay. And then if it's a good experience, its gravitas grows.
Yeah, it never. It's like in that Miles Davis biography. He says every note that's ever played is out there somewhere, and I still agree that, and it lives with you forever. If you've seen something great, you might not quite realize how important it is until later on. So it's why we need to get out and see many of the masters as we can.
I think so. I'm still trying to do that myself.
Yeah.
I got to see here about half an hour up the road from where I live. Must have been in the last year of his life. I got to see Chick with Brian Blade.
Oh,
which was really, really something.
Amazing.
And hopefully this coming Tuesday, I'm going to go and see one of my old bosses.
Are you?
Popular Beatle type chap, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Abe and the rest of the guys.
That'd be amazing. Yeah. We never got Abe on the drum hangs, but someone I really wanted to have as a guest.
I'll see what I can do.
Oh, well, you've been very helpful so far.
I won't make any promises, but I'll put a good word in for you.
Oh, thank you. And I guess you before you go, one last thing is you came along to a lot. You were part of the community, what we built up. You were there all the time at the drum hangs, and we saw some magical things happen,
Yeah.
What was your most memorable thing that happened?
Oh, goodness gracious. Well, obviously I watched the one with Jim, but there was just so many. I mean, Bill Stewart's one was having met Bill a few times, but watching that's one of the ones that sticks. Oh, crikey. There's so many of them. I mean, I unfortunately missed some due to scheduling or whatever, but
Yeah.
I just remembered that they were all so positive, and one realizes the diversity of the people and the styles and people's approach. But Andy, you got Andy on, didn't you? Andy
Yeah.
Newman.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I saw the first half and had to leave or something. But it's another guy who's a hero
Oh,
of mine, and just getting him to, you and Neil got just you managed. I think because it was a couple of drummers, and again, cliche time. There really is that thing among drummers. I think that's why people open up. It's not
Yeah.
like being interviewed by, Doris Smith from the local radio station or something. I mean, it's, you can go, drummers will go when they're with their peers. You'll go into the rabbit hole and you will get into the fine stuff, and people tend to open up because they're comfortable and they know that there's, again, cliche time, there's a lot of love there.
Yeah. And we didn't record it, is it, as well? So there was this aspect of,
I think it's good you didn't.
Yeah, I think it's good
you didn't. Yeah, because otherwise there's I'll watch that later.
Yeah, exactly.
You increase the incentive to
be there and
at the time
participate, and actually be present, and that's what it was about, is connecting everyone, I think. So I think the one with Jack DeJohnette, that was really cool, wasn't it? Because of the amount of, because it was his birthday,
It was his birthday, and
cool.
and I wasn't surprised, but I kind of was. I mean, he loves Ringo, and it
was amazing. I mean, I'm going to tell that story on a Drum Hanks podcast about the sort of Ringo thing that happened on that, which was insane. An insane story, and I think people will be surprised to hear about that. And the I don't know what I'll title that one, but it's I made Ringo, Jim Keltner, and Jack DeJohnette story, which is is amazing, So I was
when worlds collide in the best possible way.
It was exactly that, So but all right. Well, I guess we'll leave it there, and
okay,
hang back for a second, and I'll just I'll do a quick outro and then just catch up for a sec. So there we go. Thanks, Dave.
You are more than welcome, and I look forward to seeing you and whoever's going to sign up in the middle of August.
Absolutely,
fantastic. Thanks, Thank you so much, Russ. Cheers,
Dave. Cheers.
Okay.
Well, that was Dave Mattacks. So go to drumhanks.com, sign up, and what a great chat there. He's a fantastic musician, and you have to. You got to see these guys in person. You have to pick their brains because there's a lot of experience there, and they've played a lot of music. So come and see him on Tuesday, 16th of August at the Hive, which is in Red Hill in Surrey. So very near to London, very easy to get to. Just 7 places left. So go to drumhangs.com for this exclusive event and book your ticket. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Nice to see a lot of friends here too. So thanks very much, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.